All right, all right, all right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dakota here with Luxvoni.com with another Luxvoni podcast. Today's guest, we have a internet entrepreneur, a statistics expert, and a traffic partner here at Luxvoni.com. He's one of the most talented media buyers I've ever met in my life. He's ran some of the most successful Google and YouTube campaigns, some campaigns that you've probably seen on YouTube. So please welcome Dmitri Smirnov to today's podcast.
Thank you, Dakota. Happy to be here.
Awesome, man. What's cracking over that way today? What you getting into?
Well, you know how I roll. Every day is Monday, so enjoying this Monday on a Friday today.
There you go. So the whole premise of this podcast is to basically take the information from the people who have it and give it to the people who need it. So before we go into these questions that I've got for you today, how about you just open up with giving us a little bio on you. Tell us about what you do, how you do it so well, just so the audience can get some context on Dmitri.
Yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of a Google Ads agency called Big Life Marketing. And the biggest difference about us versus other agencies is that we actually care about your profit as a business. So we ask to see your financials. We start building out models, and we recommend to the client what they should do in terms of profitability and things like that. So I think that puts us head and shoulders above almost every other agency out there.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And you're big on numbers, big on financials. And I think that's the key to making a partnership succeed. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think that's the only way to make a partnership succeed is that both sides, or how many ever sides there are, use what they know to do best. They do what they do best, and everybody accepts that, and everybody goes above and beyond for everybody else. And really, partnerships can thrive that way when everybody has a role and really accomplish it in the best way they can.
Yeah, I would agree, man. Well, let's jump into a time machine because I'm super obsessed with understanding upbringings and behavior as a child and how that has, dictated you becoming this super successful entrepreneur now. So take us back. Who was Dmitri as a child? What were you interested in? What was your upbringing like?
Yeah, well, my parents brought me over here from the Soviet Union when I was 1 year old, and we moved to the Washington, D.C. area. I'm an only child. I come from a small family. However, in that community that we found this extended so-called family that we call now, that we've known for a long time. So I kind of got the best of both worlds, of both learning how to be alone by myself and working on things on my own, and working together in groups or being in groups. So I kind of can do both. And I think that's translated a lot into business, and I guess we'll get into that a little bit more. But growing up, I was playing sports a lot. I was pretty talented. My parents actually kept me pretty focused on staying out of trouble. I was going to Russian school on Friday nights all throughout high school, which kept me obviously out of trouble. And for better or for worse, I wasn't going to all the parties and drinking and things like that. When I was 13, I became an ice hockey referee and started making my own money. I was buying, at the time when the first MP3 players came out, and they were $300 as a 13-year-old. I was proud to say that I had purchased it on my own. By the time I was 16, I was refereeing 10 to 15 games every weekend. So I didn't have time really to mess around. And for a long time now, I've been footing my own bill, at least when it comes to all the, non-rent, non-food things that my parents would provide. But I did pay for part of my college education and paid for pretty much everything else since I was 16. So, that's pretty much a summary of my upbringing.
Okay, and tell us about that. In high school, what were you intrigued in getting into, and what did you end up pursuing as far as college, if you don't mind us asking?
Well, growing up, I always wanted to be a professional baseball player. And when I got into high school, I started getting obsessed with poker instead. And at the time in 2003, 2004-ish is when Chris Moneymaker, who was an amateur player, won the World Series of Poker. It was broadcasted all over the world on TV. My high school friends and I all started playing poker for $5 a tournament, things like that. As we would start raising stakes, a lot of the players would drop off, and I would start having to find neighborhood games, city games, and playing with people for higher stakes. Unfortunately, that derailed my baseball dreams, which I am regretful of. But poker actually is an interesting game because it taught me how to deal with uncertainty, how to deal with wins and losses, how to deal with percentages and numbers. I started playing actually online as well. I would play 6 to 10 tables at a time, where I thought that this might be the career that I'm going to get into. Fortunately, it wasn't, and there's a story behind that too.
That's funny. So you got through that, you got into poker. What did you pursue in college? What did you end up majoring in?
Yeah, so because of my poker obsession, let's call it, my high school GPA was a 0.14, meaning I failed every class except for one that I got a D, which actually the only class I needed to pass to graduate high school at the time, because I had so many credits from freshman and junior year. So I was still able to go to university, and I studied economics and math with a statistics track specifically. And I got to say, I've never been passionate about organized schooling. I've hated every minute of it. My first year in college, I failed out of most of my classes. I would fail to show up to almost anything. I would beg my professors to just whatever I got on the final, that would be my grade for the semester, because I'd never turned in a homework. I'd never done any of the assignments. And so that was the only way I got to pass. But it did structure my thinking even more so to a technical and mathematical perspective.
And do you think that exposure, that experience, I mean, I know for a fact it's helped you, but I mean, in your eyes, do you think that's had a lot to do with you being so successful at media buying?
I think it does have a lot to do with it, because on one hand, it taught me, that whole experience structured my thinking in an analytical way, which is important for media buying. But on the other hand, it taught me how to learn something very quickly, a semester's worth of a high-level mathematics or economics class in 3 days. So nowadays, if I face a problem in my business or something to do with media buying, I know I can solve that problem, usually within an hour. But if it takes a couple of days, so be it. But nothing is insurmountable. I think that's the most important rule that my college experience taught me.
Wow, that's great. So you get out of college, you're rocking and rolling, you graduate. What gets you into this world of internet marketing, if you will?
The summer before I graduated, I worked at a bank, and most people in my major, math, were going to work on Wall Street. They were going to work as actuaries in insurance companies. They were going to be quants at hedge funds. And the summer I spent at a bank made me understand that there is no possible way for me to ever be successful working a real job where I have to show up and put in hours, because I simply cannot do it physically. I just can't sit there in an office. It's just something that repulsed me, and it always has. Like I would skip school more than anybody I've known. I would do anything I can not to get up early, unless it was work related. In which case, for example, in the refereeing, I would oftentimes have to get up at 5, 6 in the morning during college on a Saturday morning after a night of drinking, and I would happily do it because it was something that I was happy to do. Right. Meaning that not only was I making my own income, but it was on my own schedule where I would pick the games. It was my decision whether or not I would take a 7 a.m. game or an 11:30 p.m. game. It was completely under my control. So instead of going to work for six figures out of college like everybody else, I took a brief hiatus, actually, a few months where I was trying to figure out things on my own. I was like playing around with computers. So my parents were like, okay, we'll give you a couple months. And a couple months later, I actually found a local startup, internet startup that was hiring customer support agents for $15. And I thought to myself, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. And that was my introduction to internet marketing.
Tell us about that firm, because there's a lot that you learned there. And I think, that experience probably helped you in some way. Tell us that whole story. Like, you got in with these guys. How did all that come together? Like, I think it would be valuable for the viewers to know how you can take an employee position somewhere and end up just kind of walking your way to the top, if you will.
Yeah, this was a very quickly successful internet startup by two very smart guys who would later become my mentors in the space. They were just trying to fill customer support roles, and they were hiring friends of friends of friends, and I was one of them. I came into the office. It was in one of their apartments at the time. We had a bunch of people working there. And quickly, I saw that I could differentiate myself from everybody else in the work that I was doing. One thing that I didn't skip ahead to and say I'm too good for the work that I'm doing. What I decided was I'm going to be the best customer support agent this company's ever seen. They quickly saw that and thought, okay, well, you've probably got potential for more. And they started showing me how they're buying media. How are they buying traffic to grow from 0 to 1 million users in 3 months, which was this epic story that they had created. It was a reality, and most of the people, 90% of those people that were initially hired eventually fell off. And then I stuck around and kept moving up in that company.
Incredible. So you think that had a lot to do learning the media buying side from them on that big of a scale? Do you think that really kind of benefited you as a media buyer?
Without question. One of the most important things about media buying is seeing something work for you to believe that it can work, especially at scale. When you see your first $1,000 a day campaign working and bringing return, okay, now you believe this is possible for anybody. When you have your first $10,000 a day, $100,000 a day, which we were having on Black Friday and Cyber Mondays, you start seeing that, you start believing that it's possible. I think that's one of the most important things that I learned. Of course, the other important thing I learned is actually how to make those campaigns, optimize those campaigns. So both of those were very important in my growth as a media buyer.
Okay, cool. So you get done with that, you're doing your thing, and then when do you start your own agency?
Yeah, I had almost seven phenomenal years with those guys, and at some point it became clear that I needed to run my own business because I thought it would be exciting to do everything that it takes, because a media buyer, he has one job, and that's to buy traffic and make sure that it's optimized. That's what I became an expert at. I've been very good at that. The next thing was to run everything, meaning finding your own clients, becoming a salesman, becoming a CEO and a manager who's hiring other people and managing their work, and then putting it all together, and then ultimately potentially growing this into a business that I can use as an asset, whether I want to take on investors, sell it, or do nothing and continue to run it. That'll be up to me. But this was now, about 3.5 years ago that I decided to do that. Okay.
So you start Big Life. You guys have a shitload of success right out of the gates because, quite frankly, you're one of the most talented media buyers that I've ever met. I think your statistics, your data, the mathematical stuff, how you're so data-driven helps with that. But you start the company. Tell us about some of the clients you represent. what they specialize in. Take us through that story, because I know you've ran campaigns and you've spent well over $150,000 a day on just Google search and YouTube. And I think it would be important for the audience to understand what you've learned by managing some of those campaigns.
Yeah, well, actually, like many other agencies, it started as a one-man show where I was simply just trying to run the whole business by myself. And because I had the experience from the previous work I had done, it wasn't really a problem. I wasn't ever nervous about it because I knew I had the skill set. That being said, very quickly you realize when you're working on something on your own, there's a lot that was being filled in by others that you didn't realize, that you just weren't aware of. So when you truly are on your own, you learn very, very quickly. Fortunately, I was able to be connected to many very big clients since then, including e-commerce clients, info space service providers, lead-based companies, pretty much the whole spectrum. And I think an important part of this whole story is that most of them, if not all of them, all were leveraging Facebook ads in some way. They grew their business using Facebook ads, but nobody knew how to use Google ads. Or at least they didn't know how to do it properly and do it well and scale with it. So I was able to come into an already successful businesses and grow them very quickly because I had the skills that they were looking for and exactly what their business needed at the time.
Right. It's crazy. And when you talk about Facebook and Google, so just so the audience is clear, if you were to be successful on Facebook right now with a courseware offer, an e-commerce offer, what do you think the odds of someone succeeding with Google and YouTube ads to combat that and add some extra fuel to that fire, if you will?
It's very hard to be good at everything. It's hard to be amazing at Facebook ads and Google ads and TikTok ads and SEO and everything. What I would recommend for any business that hasn't reached the stage of hiring agencies yet is to focus on one thing. What's the one thing that you're best at? It might be SEO, it might be Facebook ads, in which case run that until you don't think you can get any more out of it, and then look for an agency to help you with the other things. But what I'll tell you and what I tell everybody and what I found with all of our clients is that Google and YouTube ads should ultimately be your number one traffic source. No matter how well you're doing on Facebook, how much traffic you're getting from SEO, you should be able to beat that with Google CPC, which includes YouTube. And the analytics of all of our clients show that Google ads is the number one traffic source every single time.
Yeah, and the clients that Dmitri represents, just so everybody's clear, they're not, I mean, he's got clients that do big numbers. You're talking $5-7 million a month. So that's important to really understand that it's coming right from the horse's mouth. Whether you're in e-commerce, whether you're a courseware provider, if you're not leveraging Google and YouTube, you're leaving a lot of money on the table.
Yeah, and Google has the most inventory because unlike Facebook, which does have Instagram, fortunately for them, is probably their better placement. But Google has Google Search, Google Display, and YouTube, and then others that they're coming out with all the time. They have so much inventory to use, which can hit top of funnel, bottom of funnel, middle of funnel, different messaging, text, creative and copy. They have static images, they have video. You can hit your customer with all the messaging that you need. You really don't have to come out of the Google ecosystem to extract everything that you want from your user and to follow them all over the internet, to hit them at the top of the funnel for awareness and then close the deal with a search ad or shopping ad.
Yeah. And with Google search, I mean, you've ran all of our campaigns, and I tell you, we were somewhat successful with Facebook in the past. and we did pretty decent as far as ROAS. But with Google search, I mean, it's Google search and YouTube's kind of going to be our number one traffic sources, as Dmitri mentioned. I'll tell you one thing: I've never seen ROAS like I have with search. You know, it's incredible. So if I was an entrepreneur right now watching this, and say maybe I had, let's just use a business like ours, Luxvoni, for example. Say I was a marketing agency looking to generate qualified appointments and close those sales on high ticket services. What kind of advice would you give someone around a marketing strategy? Would you say, let's start with search first? Let's start with Facebook. What would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, for us and the traffic that we're running at Luxvoni, it was because my expertise is Google Ads. I could advise on that specifically, and I knew that Google search was going to give us the quickest and fastest feedback, where we would find bottom of the funnel people who were searching for terms that were specific to this business, and we would know whether or not our offer works or not. On one hand, it was a way to prove the offer. If we couldn't get it to work on extremely relevant search terms, that means we needed to go back, change the landing page, change the automation, and change the offer until we could sell to the people who are actually looking to buy what we are offering right now. That's why we started with search and then expanded into other sources where the sales cycle is a little bit longer. But since we already know that the offer works, we're willing to wait and nurture those leads a little bit longer. But for anybody who's starting, and this is what we look at with new businesses, we ask, well, what is already working? If Facebook is already working, then keep focusing on Facebook. However, if nothing is working, Google search is a good way to figure out if the problem is your offer or the traffic source. So you can test it out. It's not very hard to set up search ads. It's not very hard to choose your keywords. You should know what your perfect audience is searching for and match up your ads with their perfect keywords. See if it works. If it does, great. You know, you can move on with it. If it doesn't, go back to the drawing board. It's a simple process.
Right. Right. And let's elaborate a little bit on YouTube, because I think a lot of people underestimate the power of search and YouTube. And I know you've ran a lot of super successful YouTube campaigns. Could you give us some insight on that, you know, regarding YouTube, just to give the audience a little bit of context on how powerful YouTube may be for them?
Yeah, YouTube is probably the most powerful website out there for advertising in particular. The reason is that unlike on Facebook, even on TikTok, which I know is extremely popular right now, and people are spending hours and hours on TikTok. But the difference is that on YouTube, people are sitting down for 30-minute, an hour and a half, 3-hour videos that they're watching about the topic that they're interested in. So we're comparing Facebook, which has a 3 to 7 second attention span before they're swiping on to the next thing. TikTok videos, which cycle through every 30 seconds or 15 or whatever it is. YouTube, people are sitting down at their desktop in many cases. Of course, they're using mobile too, but they're sitting down and they're wanting to watch something related to your business. They might be watching how do I get more traffic to my website? How do I convert better on my website? Things that are very relevant to internet marketers who might be wanting to sell their service or a course. So not only are you finding your perfect audience on YouTube, but they're in the perfect mind space to buy from you. And that's a big difference. We've heard of Robert Cialdini's books and Persuasion and Influence and all those important psychological aspects of marketing. On YouTube, people are more ready to buy than on any other platform, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very true too, because that attention span is so different. Like, you're sitting there learning. Like, for example, we can go target people who are looking at Russell Brunson's videos. They're all interested in sales funnels. For somebody who's in the fitness space, fitness influencers, somebody who follows maybe Christian Guzman at Athlete, you could be targeting all of your ads right there. Am I correct?
Well, yes. Actually, one thing that's changed with YouTube over the last 30 days is that they have completely eliminated placement and channel targeting. However, that can still be circumvented with their custom intent audiences, where you're creating audiences of people who searched for the keywords that you're interested in. Maybe that audience, Russell Brunson, for example, people who visited similar websites to that. So, for better or for worse, Google and YouTube and all the marketing, Google Ads in general is evolving, and they always have. So none of this is surprising, but there's still an ability to target your ideal customers, and fortunately, regardless of what YouTube does or not, they're still more in the right headspace than in any other platform.
Yeah, and if you need help with that type of stuff, and if you heard about this new update and you're a little uncertain about YouTube, I would highly encourage you to reach out to us or Dmitri and his team, and we can kind of connect you, because they've got a proven plan. They're coming up with strategies left and right to combat that and still get their clients ridiculous results with those traffic mediums.
Yeah, and especially if you're at a place where your time would be better suited working on the product or working on fulfillment or working on operations in your business, then it makes sense for you to hire professionals who know what they're doing for the job that you need. You shouldn't be running all your traffic. You just can't be doing that successfully. And so one thing that whoever you hire should be doing is actually not only making your life easier, sending you more qualified traffic than you had before, but also telling you whether things are working or not, whether they're profitable, and making the business grow ultimately.
Yeah, it's very important. And I like how you mentioned that, because I talk about sometimes on the channel, as entrepreneurs, we've got to automate, delegate, eliminate. And if I was running our media here, we'd be bankrupt. There would be no Luxvoni. So I think there is some real value in understanding what you're talented at. If you're a founder, and majority of founder personality temperaments, they don't meet the media buyer temperaments. They're not analytical people typically. So I think that that's very important to, I think we're both in this position. We're hiring a lot of staff. We're scaling our teams. And I think it's important for people to understand that you are as good as your team is. So if you're not willing to let go and release some of that, let them fail on their own, let them learn, it makes things very hard for you, and it's capping your potential out.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of times you'll hire an agency and you do have to let them learn and let them fail a little bit. But if you hire a professional agency, it doesn't take very long for them to figure out the kinks in your business and actually develop a strategy for growth that you may have never seen before. In many cases, the businesses that we work with, and one of the reasons they grow 5x in a year, even at 8-figure territory, which seems kind of impossible, but it is possible because we can see oftentimes something that for us seems obvious, but for others is not. And so, there's actually there's opportunity to hit a home run very quickly just by bringing in a new perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think back to your mathematical background again, understanding financial models and building those around marketing. I think that's been super valuable, because you go into these companies and, believe it or not, I mean, you've worked with real big CMOs that are, huge names, big schools that they come from. And here comes Dmitri in, and he builds a financial marketing model for an e-commerce brand, just for an example. And nobody's ever seen anything like it. They're like, how did he do this? And I find that so unique with you because you're all data driven. And with that data, you no longer have to make decisions off assumptions. It's just a matter of numbers.
That's true. However, one of the most overrated words that I've learned over the last few years, especially since I've started my agency, is the word data. Data gets thrown around all the time by, like you said, CMOs, CFOs, CEOs. Everybody throws around the word data. And data is good if you know what to do with it, because data is just a bunch of numbers. What is the outcome? What is the conclusion? What are the actionable steps that we can take based off that data? Now, that is valuable information. And so it's funny because my math background and the math that we were doing it was at it was at a level that never is really needed in the marketing space. But what we did learn is, and one thing that I am continuing to use is actually taking data and then making conclusions out of it, presenting it to the client. And the way we would present it, and the way we do present it, isn't, hey, we found this, what do you think we should do? No. It's, here's what we need to do. Do we have your approval? Here's what we need to do to grow this business by 50% over the next 6 months. Do we have your approval? That's a different question for a business owner than if, well, according to the numbers, this happened and that happened, and what do you think we should do? Like, who wants to hear that?
No one. Yeah, right on the money. And what's another point that's interesting that I want to talk about a little bit, because you mentioned it earlier, is, of course, you're staffing up, you've got a big team, you manage people. Can you talk about one thing that I really respect about you is expectations and how you've been able to manage those expectations with clients? Dmitri's a different guy. He's not a sales guy. He's not trying to sell you something. He's a very deep type of, guy. He wants to understand every piece. So he'll tell you right out of the gates if he doesn't think it's going to work or will it. With you, it's funny because you've built your agency off of just pure talent. What can you give to the audience about, instead of doing a lot, how do you bring on one person, manage expectations correctly, and do less and make more, if you will? Does that make sense?
Yeah, specifically in the agency world, one big client who is on your side, supporting you, trusting you, is a lot easier to work with than 10 small clients who don't trust you, don't always believe that they're getting tricked into something, tricked into paying a monthly retainer fee or percentage of ad spend or a rev share or a profit share equity deal. Whatever the arrangement is, if there is trust, then it works. And the way we build that with a client, especially early on, is walking them through a true audit that actually contains value that they can take with them, whether or not they work with us. We go through quite a bit of work, and it's expensive for us to do, both from a time and resource perspective, to go through these audits and deliver them to the client. And we don't work with everybody that applies to work with us. And the reason is some people just aren't a good fit. Their business, we don't think we can grow them with Google Ads, depending on their product. They might, it just sometimes isn't a good fit. But once we do decide to work together, the client has already received so much value that we have at least a 90-day window to now prove ourselves without getting hassled every week for updates. And it takes time for a new traffic source to be proven. It's not overnight where that can come in. But once we do have our 90-day runway, the client sees everything is happening. And by the way, the expectations that I have for my agency and the work that we do is a lot higher than any client can have of us. So if we're not meeting our own expectations, then there's a fire under our ass, and we want to make sure that we just stay true to what we believe is the work that we can do. And that's what I would recommend to anybody listening is, yes, you can work less and make more. That is true. It depends on what stage you're in. If you're just starting out, your goal should not be to work less, but it should be to work more on something that can be fruitful. So once you find an opportunity, and it might not be paying you, in many cases, we came on, there's a client that's paid us hundreds of thousands a month, every month on end for 3 years. But when we first started with them, they were paying us $1,000 a month. But I saw the opportunity and we went all in and we worked really, really hard on that account. And so if for those who are starting, if you see an account that you think might work out, you got to just go all in, work really hard on that account. And it might be fruitful. It might not be. If it isn't, move on to the next one. But you have to put in the work.
Yeah. I think something else that's important is, you're managing campaigns for very famous brands, companies that are doing $50 to $100 million a year. Like, these are key players. And with that, you're getting this insight and you're working with these founders on a regular basis. Like, you're getting to see their personality, temperaments, how do they operate? What do you think makes the successful clients that you have different than the ones, you don't have hardly any churn rate because it's so hard to get in the door with you, but compared to the ones that don't perform well, is it limiting beliefs? What is it? What do you think makes the successful successful?
Well, yeah, the successful, I think what makes successful people successful in general, not just the ones that I work with, but they really just don't give up. And they're always thinking about new ideas. What else can be done? That's how we run our agency too, and how we run every single account. There's always more to be done. The work is never finished, which makes for very poor vacations, but it makes for good work. And same thing with the founders that we work with that are successful, especially. They're always thinking about, what can I do better in my business? What are some new ideas that I can implement? And when they're facing challenges and problems, if people aren't buying from them anymore, if they have operational issues, whatever the case may be, they've never given up. And so I think those two things is to not give up and to continually learn something new, pursue something new in the business, keep trying to improve.
Love that. Now, we talk about this all the time, and we've had conversations about the future, what we're building together here at Luxvoni and everything else. But what does the next 3 to 5 years look like for you? What's on your mind? What mindset are you going into it? And what problems are you looking to face, and how are you going to overcome those problems?
Yeah, there's two things that I want to accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years. And one is for Big Life Marketing, the Google Ads agency I have, to really evolve and grow into one of the premier, well-known, well-respected Google Ads agencies in the entire world. And right now, we're a boutique agency. We have some clients, but meaning some, when I say some clients, we have enough clients for the team that we have. So my goal is to grow our team with really qualified media buyers, and then grow our client base as well. One thing that we're doing is that we're training media buyers internally, and we're actually creating a course for specifically Google Ads, and that should be out in 2023. And that has a twofold benefit. One is that we can continue to train people internally with the strategies that we know and that we know work for clients. And two, that anybody out there who wants to to know everything that we do step by step. They can just take the course and be great at Google Ads. And the second thing that I want to accomplish in the next 5 years is really partner with businesses that can use our skills and our everything that we know about Google Ads to double, triple, quadruple, even 10x their businesses. So there are a few selected partners that I want to just completely devote most of my working hours to, and see what we can do together with those established businesses who are just ready to hit that next 9-figure level.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, next question that I have for you is, you got a lot going on, man. You got a big staff, you got demanding clients, you got a whole lot going on in your world. How does an entrepreneur like you, who's also an incredible husband, an incredible dad, how does someone like you manage all of that? What does your routines look like? What does a day in the life of Dmitri Smirnov look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot, and it's a full life, and it's one of the reasons that I named my company what I named it, which is Big Life Marketing. Because I think a lot of us, especially entrepreneurs, are looking for a big life, and that doesn't just mean business-wise. That means your family, your friends, your interests, your hobbies, and your work as well. To be honest, it just seems like everything is go, go, go always. One of the advantages that I have is that I've been working from home for 10 years, and I've been working from home the last 2 years since my daughter was born. And fortunately, that gives me the opportunity to always be in the same house together, have her walk in sometimes, hang out, and not miss moments that I otherwise would miss. Managing a business, family, and other activities is difficult. I would agree with that. And what I do, it's simpler than it sounds. Like, I just take notes of what I need to do for the week on a piece of paper. And I have a certain way that I organize it, but I found that for me, if I write what needs to be, like the night before, I'll write down on my journal what needs to be done the next day. And I also write what else needs to be done that week. And I start checking things off, and it's kind of an addiction. When you check something off, it's a hit of dopamine. And one of the most important things that I've learned over my career and my life in general, through my successes and my failures, is that you want to reward yourself for doing good things and important things. So you're not sitting down to watch a movie until you've checked off the things that you needed to check off. And that way you've earned that reward. And in the meantime, so much can get done that way. Day after day after day, you're just checking things off and earning that reward. It just works out that way. It's balance, and it's that's what I would recommend to anybody.
Okay. Good answer. Good checklist. Get a good checklist. Stick to a schedule. Calendar block your calendar and try to do those things. Now, let me ask you something else here. With you, of course, traffic's a big part. Now, I want to talk about funnels a little bit too, because, I mean, you've seen it, you know it, but a point of sale system, a funnel, for example, it's a very important piece of the entire business, right? You need traffic, you need a funnel, you need automation. What advice could you give someone that is maybe a new offer, completely new? You know, what would you recommend? What are a couple pieces that they have to have? Is it a funnel? Is it automation? Is it traffic? What does that look like?
Okay, about the funnel, I'll get to that in a minute. I want to return to the previous question, and you mentioned time block and checklists and things like that. I do want to be clear that I don't actually time block most of my day. I kind of keep it pretty flexible. For some people, it works to time block, but I found that as long as I'm staying focused, I don't need it to be blocked out. And to each their own, of course, but As far as funnels go, and a new offer, if you're starting from scratch, complete scratch, it's difficult to prove any offer, even with paid traffic. So what I would recommend first, before doing anything, is getting some kind of an audience. That could be 10 followers on Instagram or 100 followers, and who might be interested in something that you're selling, and start promoting it, and not in a salesy way, but talk about yourself, talk about your product, talk about your course. Get feedback from that audience. They will tell you if this is going to work or not. Once you have proof that your offer has potential in the real world, then you should move to paid traffic, and not until then. And once you do move to paid traffic, yes, you need a funnel. You need a landing page that's going to collect some information, usually an opt-in where you can send them email and text automations. You want to nurture people along. You really don't want to let them get away from you anymore. So people usually don't buy anything on the spot without ever hearing about you or knowing what your product is. But over time, they'll get to know you. They will buy. So in short, you need a funnel, which means that you need to get with a funnel builder. If you don't know how to build funnels, you're going to face a lot of difficulties. You don't know where the holes in your funnel are, where are people dropping off, why are they dropping off. So you need to get with an expert. Either you need to learn it yourself, which is going to take you 10,000 hours to become an expert. And by the way, 10,000 hours, I'm not talking about 10,000 hours of pretending like you're researching and watching TV and Netflix while you're studying. That's not, like, 10,000 focused hours is a lot harder than it sounds. Or you could hire a company like Luxvoni, for example, that has already analyzed hundreds of the top performing funnels for every single industry, from real estate to insurance to courses to services, e-commerce. Everybody who's ever made a funnel work, Luxvoni has broken it down and pulled out all the best that it has to offer, and then they give it to you, and you know that you're getting something that is proven to work. That's the easy way of doing it, hiring a company like Luxvoni, or you figure it out on your own.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I think that there's a lot of value in that organic first, getting that organic. I think that's why we've been successful, because, we were successful organically, right? We had proof of concept. And then I want to elaborate on one thing. This isn't every industry, but Dmitri came in first month and we freaking crushed it. Like, it didn't take months. Like, we came out of the gate swinging, and it was just call, deal. It was unbelievable. It was like we just hit a gold mine. But some offers take longer. Some offers are shorter. But I can say this probably, and I think you would agree, the more organic traction you have, the more proof of concept you have, typically the easier it is to run ads and be successful with ads, right?
There's no question about it. If you have organic working, there's no reason paid isn't going to work too. As a matter of fact, one of the things we look for when we're interviewing a client is, what do they have working already? And if they have a successful organic presence, that's a really good sign as to getting ads to exponentially scale them. The offer is already proven. It's ready to go. All it needs is this match to light the gasoline on fire. But if you don't have any gasoline and you're going through matches, it's and the gasoline being organic presence, if you don't have it, it's gonna be difficult.
Yeah, and I want to throw this in here because it's kind of controversial. A lot of people do really well with organic, and they stick with organic forever. They build a $200,000 a month business maybe, and they kind of leave it at that. In your opinion, paid traffic or organic, out of all your companies that you represent right now, what does majority of their revenue come from? Is it organic or is it paid traffic?
Well, it's always paid traffic with the companies that I work with. And the companies that I work with, Google ads and YouTube ads is their number one traffic source, or about to be that for our newer clients. So even for massive organic presence companies, once you bring in that paid source, it becomes the most important source. But organic is still fueling it and boosting it and driving it. So for people who are new and they have a new offer, they don't have an organic presence, organic is more important than paid. But I've met a lot of creators and a lot of service providers who are tired of the organic game. They're tired of getting on a live webinar to their organic audience every week. They're tired of posting a million different pieces of content every week. They just want a reliable traffic source that's going to bring them income to a proven offer for an extended period of time, and that's what paid traffic does.
With predictability, with accountability, with measurability. Like, that's why I love you and what you guys do in paid traffic, is because as a business owner myself, as a founder, I want consistency. I want to be able to build an empire. Like organic, it's hard to do that with, but with you guys, it's easy as hell. It really is.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you say that it's easy, because on our side, it's far from easy. And like we were talking about earlier, with Google changing their rules all the time, campaign types changing, inventory changing, everything, bidding strategies, all this stuff is changing all the time. So it is difficult, but we do like to present to our clients this ease that with which the traffic is happening. So, so on one hand, yes, it is extremely consistent if it's done properly, if it's monitored, if it's optimized. It's not something that's set it and forget it. If it's working today, you can't just leave it alone for 2 months and expect it to continue to work. But if you keep monitoring it and you take care of it, then it can be successful for you for months and years and decades on end. I would think that Google is not going away, so you can rely on it.
Oh, incredible. Well, we're coming up on time here, so I want to kind of conclude this bad boy. But before we do, if the listeners want to learn more about you, more about Google, more about traffic, and they qualify to maybe possibly partner with somebody like yourself, where can they find you? Where can they get more information? Where are you at in this beautiful internet world?
Yeah, they can go to our website, biglifemarketing.com. And if you think that we'd be a good fit, you can schedule a consultation to speak to me or somebody from my team about getting Google and YouTube ads for your business. We're also now kind of doing it the opposite way, because we started with paid. Our business actually started completely with referrals and word of mouth. And now we're getting into organic as well. So we're going to be building out a Twitter audience and an Instagram audience, and TikTok we're going to get into. So search for me, Dmitri Smirnov, on one of the platforms. My Instagram's Life and Little Things. And, find us there, find Big Life Marketing, and stay tuned with what we're doing there.
Yeah, there's a lot to come. I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited for what you're building. I'm also excited for what we're building together, and super psyched up. The one thing I will say, about Dmitri is he really cares about his clients. He looks after them. He does what's in the best interest of the business. He's willing to do whatever it takes to make them successful. And we appreciate you here at Luxvoni, and to all of our clients. If you're serious about scaling, this would be the only person that I recommend to do that.
Thank you very much for that. And I'm excited about everything that we're doing here as well. I think we've got so much potential here, and between all the resources and partners that we're working with, it just really should come together as a beautiful thing. And as far as our clients goes, when what Dakota said, we really care about them is true. We do care about them. We really mostly care about our clients' profit, and the reason is just that's how we measure success. That's what's fun for us. That's how we have fun, is by increasing your bottom line. So, if that doesn't sound like fun for you, maybe go somewhere else. But if you're looking to increase your bottom line, then come see us.
Yeah, Dmitri's like a CFO too, because I didn't have one. So Dmitri came into the business and he's like, "Hey, this is what we need to do. Here's the numbers. Here's this direct call. Here's the formula. This is what we got to run off of. This is our KPIs we got to hit." And I mean, you probably know my numbers better than me, but here's the good news: I don't need to know everything. Dmitri's the subject matter expert. So sometimes when you have someone like that you can trust, a brother, a friend, someone who's close, that's how I feel with dealing with Dmitri. Is I feel like every time I'm being taken care of, my best interest is always in his mind, and I think that's important. So go check him out. We appreciate you coming to the interview, dude. Super exciting stuff going on. Looking forward to getting to that $5 million month with you. I know it's going to take some time, but we're going to be there one of these days. And until next time, guys, enjoy, brother.
Thank you, Dakota. Talk to you later.
All right, buddy. All right.